Welcome to Innovation and Leadership. On this episode, we get to have my new friend, Des Hague. Des, thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Looking forward to it, Jess.
Well, Des, you've had such an interesting background, leading such major organizations. I want, instead of me butchering it, I want you to give us some of the highlights, and then we'll talk about what your latest adventures are and your new book.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll try not butcher it myself as well, Jess. My career today, I've had the pleasure of running 9 organizations as president or CEO, all the way through to multi-billion-dollar companies. Centerplate, North America's, at the time, largest event hospitality company, the president of IHOP, which was the world's largest family dining, multi-billion-dollar company, perishables president of Safeway, $20+ billion. And I've also had the opportunity to work with some amazing brands in senior positions, such as 7-Eleven. What a great company, inspired to help franchisees grow. And I had the pleasure to run their fresh food business. At Maytag, I was responsible for all advanced technologies. So the birth of the glass front vendor from Coca-Cola that you see all in the airports, those innovations were under my leadership, such as if you visited any Starbucks or Subway or any really restaurant company, that small rapid cook oven that warms up the food in a Starbucks or a toast your sandwich in a Safeway and a Subway. We actually found that technology in a garage in Dallas. So I would say that I've had, I like to think that while I've run some of the largest companies in the world, it's always been with an entrepreneurial spirit of believing that I ran a small company to do big things. So, that's what I've done, but it's not who I am. What I like to think I am is somebody who makes every company better, makes more money to the bottom line, delivers billions of dollars back to shareholders and investors, but also make the journey successful for others. It's about lifting others up. It's not about what is it for me. It's about, I like to think that, at the end of the day, the analysis will be, how many people have I been able to raise up and grow and reach their full potential? So that's what I've done and who I am. Also been on 20 boards, Jess, 20 boards and counting. And I just think I'm a student of business. I love to learn. There's nothing better than never stop learning. Every day is a good day because it's not a mundane day. If you approach it through the lens of, what am I going to get out of this today? I'm a better person today, this morning, than I was yesterday. Every day you're constantly evolving and then thinking about, how do you do well and do good at the same time and be a positive force multiplier. So that's a little bit about me. I hope that didn't butcher it for you as well, Jess.
That's great. By the way, I think we need to start out with a shout out to our mutual friend, Jennifer Hill, for putting us together. She's such an incredible connector.
She is. She's phenomenal. And she's also honored me with leaning into my latest venture, which is the Thinking Academy, which is my commitment, working now with 17 Fort Sherpas, all business leaders who've been there and done it to help others succeed. And the mission is, with the Thinking Academy, how do we help people get ahead and stay ahead in their career? And I can't tell you, there's no better advocate than Jennifer Hill.
Her enthusiasm is contagious.
No,
right?
It makes me feel like I'm in first gear when she's in fifth gear. That woman is the Energizer Bunny for sure.
Yeah, she's amazing. Well, tell people the name of the new book and the premise of it.
My second and latest book is Think Your Way to the Top. And the premise behind it was, as I was growing through my career, and I had phenomenal mentors, Jess, Whitbread and Pizza Hut and PepsiCo, and all the way through until I became a CEO. And then I had great mentors then. But one of the things that always used to frustrate me was a lack of transparency of what's happening in the company that I was in as I was growing through the ranks. I wanted to, I really wanted to sit down and say, hey, what's the vision? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? I had a million questions, which is always my problem, a million questions. But I thought was, I want to give people the skills and the experience of thinking for themselves as they were going through their careers. So this book was put together. It's 52 thought lessons, one a week, that really are force multipliers that will help you evolve to a better you. We all know that, to break a habit or to get a habit, there's different, diagnoses or prognoses of, is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? Is it one day? Is it just a willpower to be different? And we all know that that's challenging and it's different for different people. So what I wanted this book to be was to get everybody who wants to succeed in their career. And there's a great quote from Zig Ziglar. I'll paraphrase it. If you're not prepared to learn, no one can help you. But if you're prepared to learn, nobody can stop you. And so what I wanted this book to be was a igniter of a belief that you're prepared to learn and to challenge you to think, not what to think, but how to think. We don't want an indoctrination. We don't want to be a Des speak. We want every individual who goes through this book and goes through the training programs that we've developed off the book to self-explore and to self-develop. My good friend who placed me at Safeway, Melanie Steinbach, she's working now with Masterclass as the chief people officer. When she was the chief people officer of McDonald's, she had a great quote about development. You're on a path to develop, but you're not by yourself. I want to believe that this book is their guide to self-development and improvement. And the courses that we've developed with the Jennifer Hills and the other great thought leaders, thought Sherpas, we call them, who are leaning in to give back, Jess, to make people better from their experiences. That's what I wanted out of the book and out of the Thought Academy or the Thinking Academy programs.
Well, it's fun, and it's been fun getting to know you recently and these different conversations we've been having. I want to back up on a couple of things before we dive into the book. What was the approximate market cap of IHOP and Centerpoint when you were running them?
Well, Centerplate at the time when we acquired them were doing about 600 million in revenues. Market cap was we acquired them in a difficult time in the downturn. It was like everything else in 2009. Don't let any crisis pass you by. The famous paraphrase quote from I'll cite it to Rahm Emanuel. I think he was then the chief of staff at the White House for the Obama administration, and then obviously went on to be the mayor of Chicago. But we were in a crisis. The market had turned down. I actually was sat in my office in Glendale, the president of IHOP globally, a multi-billion-dollar business, and my private equity group that I'd been an operating partner of for years, Kohlberg, the spin-off of KKR, the Barbarians at the Gates, with sharp elbows. No criticism to Kohlberg or KKR and my private equity friends. But I remember sitting there and Centerplate was on the interim derivative stock market of Toronto, which basically, and it's now a defunct model, vehicle. And their market cap went from almost 800 million to defunct. And so I'm sat in my pretty chair in Glendale, California, My wife is loving going to Malibu and all the nice things and the beautiful weather. And Centerplate is going through tremendous, unbelievable turmoil. Can they survive? So it was never about the market cap, but I love it. I love challenges and I love solving things. So I left my cushy president role at IHOP in the middle of all this crisis, Jess. Like people said, are you certified? Why are you doing this? To take on Centerplate that at the time was a couple of hundred, we actually acquired them for less than 200 million and sold them for north of, almost 800 million with some tail at the end to make it even more attractive. So that was my leap of faith. And I always say, if you're going to do it, you better believe in yourself. And if you're going to back yourself, show yourself. Not words, but rhetoric and deeds and outcomes. So Centerplate
And
is,
how long did that take?
um, well, we sold the company from less than 200 to almost, north of 700, nearly 800 in 3 years. So it was about, for every week I was there, I increased with the team, not just Des, with the team of great people that we brought in, we increased the economic enterprise value of that vehicle, that company, by about $3 million a week. An extreme payback, extreme payback.
Yeah, no kidding. Basically, quadrupling a company in around 3 years is pretty attractive. What's a specific or one or two of the things there that made the difference?
It's just it's having the courage and the belief that you're not going to fail. It's, we, we've all,
And actually, for people who don't know what they do, can you tell people what the business was?
Centerplate was North America's largest sports and entertainment hospitality company at the time of my exit. We had 14 NFL teams, which basically meant that we provided the hospitality, the food, the beverage, sometimes in many of the locations, the merchandise, all the foam fingers, all the hats, all the shirts. In many cases, we managed the facility as well. So keeping the lights running, keeping the venue live. In other instances, we managed some of the marketing and sponsorship programs, particularly in Europe when we acquired 3 companies there that did more of the offering. So, you think about going to the new, the San Francisco Giants, baseball. You go to the San Diego Chargers at the time, the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers, the Minnesota Vikings. Then we also managed the whole programs for 50 convention centers in North America. 9 of the top 15 were under our leadership. We also ran, the restaurant operations of Saks Fifth Avenue. We also ran 16 ski resorts. We also ran 47 college venues, Notre Dame, for want of better, you know, big, iconic Harvard, Yale, others, big iconic universities and colleges. So it was very eclectic and it needed um, a different way of thinking. When I came in, the business was really in the concessions business, selling popcorn and hot dogs. And I think concessions, and I've never liked the word because I think and it's just because I am dyslexic, Jess. It's too close to concede. I don't work in a conceding business. So I wanted to develop a mindset that we're in the event hospitality business. We are here to create extraordinary experiences and execute them flawlessly. We had 140 million customers a year going through these venues. And I expected to give them a better service than they ever would have predicted that was capable. And we did that, Jess. We won. If you look at NFL, you look at any vehicle or any sector, Centerplate was recognized as giving the best service and won awards for being the best in NFL, being the best in MLB.
Yeah, what's a practical example of a change that was made? To you had this courage, you changed this mindset, and then what did that look like operations-wise, or what's a practical example of what changed?
Well, the biggest change, Jess, great question, by the way, but the biggest change was when you think about the fan experience. Let's just take the San Francisco Giants or the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco Giants, 40,000 fans in a game, 81 games a year. San Francisco 49ers, you've got the NFL season, much smaller with a few concerts. But when you think about who goes to the San Francisco 49ers, 60 plus thousand fans, 40,000 of those fans are in the normal general admission areas. And then you have your suites and you have your VIPs. My competition focused on the suites and VIPs. It's where the money is. I get it. But I wanted to focus on, I want everybody who goes in, when they go in, I don't want to give them cheap and cheerful and nasty. And I want to give them the best hot dog. So it's potato leaf, potato bread. If it's a hamburger, I want it fresh chuck. I want again, potato bread. I want to have the best lettuce. I want things to be exceptional. So the biggest change for us was we're going to really, we're not going to not look at the suites and the clubs, but we're going to make sure that every fan has a great food offering. Now, if they want just to have nachos and they're on a very, a budget oriented, still can have great nachos. Don't just feed, I won't say crap. I did say crap. Don't just give junk on value. Give it something that's memorable. Make it one of a kind. And what I would tell you is the venues that we had, close to 600 venues around the world eventually. We were growing at 10% on average per venue when my competitions were negative to 1 or 2% growth. That's the difference. And that's why we got the reward.
I want to talk about this because that doesn't sound like something that only Elon Musk could have thought up. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not this like crazy thought of like, how did you ever think about that? And yet there's so many leaders that can talk themselves into good enough. Well, that's good enough. Well, why do you think there aren't more people as passionate as you about excellence?
Because I think, and I'm not being disrespectful, but I think many, don't think hard enough. And many play to be safe. I want to be safe. If I don't rock the boat, if I don't take a chance, I'm not going to get fired. And I don't want to play by those rules. Those rules got burnt by me when I was 15 years old. I wanted to have courage and be something and do something and have belief. And I don't want to work in any company that can't be exceptional. So that's the first thing. I'm not here to play safe. I'm here. I'm not going to put the company at risk either, but I'm going to challenge. I'm going to bet. When I bet big. I like to think that courage it's not monetarized in enough people's minds. They will just get by. I don't want to live. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Just think about it, Jess. Who wants to wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you know what? Time to be muddy. Time to be a muddy. This is when I've trouble with words. Time to be average. Time to, who does the world want? Another average company? Do we need that to be a commodity? And I think the ones who stretch the furthest, who, it's at the frontiers of our thinking where the best returns come. And we all have an opportunity.
As soon as you say that, I think about a lot about comparison. I had this great woman on the podcast yesterday. I think she grew her tech. She's in Paris. Her name's Eleanor Crespo. Grew her tech company from zero to $1 billion valuation. I want to say like 3.5 years or four
Brilliant.
years. Okay.
Congratulations.
And I think she's on like year five or six right now, somewhere like this. And I was like, I talked to her about like, what do you think is different about you that you've accomplished so much? And she's like, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we're only at 1% of our potential here. We're
Right.
like, who she's comparing herself against is SAP, Oracle. Like that's where she set her sights. And like as you were talking, I was thinking, my friends would not say the people I know with average businesses would not ever say, "Oh, I'm fine being average." But what they're doing is they're comparing themselves to others with low standards. Is my guess. What do you think?
No, I think you hit it on the head. That's why I said I think people don't have the courage to really stretch and, take risks. And, what if you knew me at Centerplate back in the day, when we first got there, Jess, we were winning about 6 to 8% of the deals. I had 7 competitors. I was under fighting my weight. Pathetic. My last couple of years, we won 58% of all deals that we went into, and we never won one on buying them. We won it on a strategic imperative of differentiation, of driving your business, of results, and stretching. And I would tell you that while we got to multi-billion dollars of revenue, I'm like the lady you spoke to yesterday in Paris or somewhere in France. I was always wanting more. It doesn't make, like you say, it's an insatiable desire to deliver, and you got to be focused on not letting that pendulum swing too far that you're never happy. And that's what I talk about in the book on these exercises. I wish sometimes in the last 30 years I'd have took the win. I'd have celebrated a little bit more. I always celebrated the team, but inside I was always wanting the next thing. And that's when I think you need harmony. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in harmony of life. Sometimes I work 20 hours. Sometimes I'll take the day off. I do what is needed at the time, but I don't believe in work-life balance because it's not possible. Sometimes it's harmony. If you seek for harmony, you're going to stretch when you need to, and you're going to take it easier when you can as well. But I would say it's always about pushing the envelope, getting that next. I love the lady's mentality, by the way. Um, we were a multi-billion dollar company, but it was a $30 billion industry. I had times to 10x, and I'd already 10x, but I could go again, another 10x.
Yeah. What did you get the revenue to from 600 million to what?
About $3.5–4 billion when we add in the merchandise and everything else and the other venue enablers. So a nice, tidy increase.
Yeah, amazing. And then let's go a step back. How big was IHOP at the time you ran it, and what's something you implemented there?
Well, I didn't stay a long time in IHOP because of the opportunity with Centerplate, and I wanted to put my name on something that I thought could, really, plant a flag and be great. IHOP at the time were about a $4 billion business. The first day I got into the business, they were struggling for sales. The competitor Denny was growing at 4, 5, 6%, which is like 600 basis points. We talk about basis points when the growth is small, so we make it sound bigger, but it's 6%, 600 basis points. Smoke and mirrors. I just like to be call it, balls and strikes, if you like, a reality guy. What we worked on in IHOP was a consolidation to maximize more profit for the franchisees. We had an ineffective distribution system. At the time, we had, I believe it was Cisco at the time. We had, and we brought in and we consolidated the number of distribution centers that saved the company about $25–50 million a year. It's a lot of incremental profit found that allowed us to drive. That was the efficiency saving. But if I go back to my number one challenge with IHOP was growing sales. And, this is another big challenge for people. don't fall in love with what you do and have done and believe it will get you to the promised land moving forward. So at the time, I had a chief marketing officer who really loved being on TV. You know, we got adverts. We're doing things on TV. Aren't we brilliant? No, we're growing negatively. What we needed to do was do guerrilla marketing tactics, very, very focused. And by the way, I did use the word guerrilla, and I apologize to anybody. I know somebody got cancelled for using the word guerrilla tactics as an insult to people, which is outrageous. We've used that word with Nike and other companies for years, and it should not have any.
Yeah. All it means, all it refers to is in conflict of the regular people who march and wear their uniforms versus the folks who hit and run and are strategic and who are not throwing huge amounts of money at it. They show up out of nowhere and
No, it's
it's
just
that type
I
of
think
guerrilla that it refers to.
we're in a crazy age, Jess, to be honest, where we have allowed radicals to hijack the dictionary, and then the social media attacks that happen on a whim. And I always say this: if why do you attack somebody you don't even know? Why would you even go out of your way? I'm busy looking on the mirror. I stare at the mirror to look at where my biggest opportunities are. They're not with somebody else. They're with me. You work on you. But anyway, so going back to guerrilla tactics, I chose with IHOP that while TV, it's like golf. You drive for show and you put for dough. Or you short games where you actually have more strokes. So while it's nice to drive for show, being on TV because I'm a brand and I'm getting public recognition and it's great to do and it's sexier, if you like, than doing the hard tactical work. So we looked at this with, my leadership team, and it was against the objections of my CMO at the time, was we need to win in the biggest markets that we're in. Now, IHOP is in cities, but it's very rural as well. And so we attacked the top 10 markets that didn't need TV. And that's what got us to grow. That turned around that multi-billion-dollar company by having the confidence. And as I said before, we all face adversity, Jess. And that's adversity could have failed. Yeah, of course it could. Everything could fail. If you look at it through the lens of everything's going to fail, you're going to be in a straitjacket in no time. But I look at it and say, adversity is inevitable. You're going to face it. So get that out of the way. And you will succeed or you will fail if you allow yourself to think that way. If you think you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you think you're going to succeed, you've got more chances. And the other thing that powers me when I'm thinking about these decisions to do things differently is I read a book every Thanksgiving called A Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Awful story. And there's two things that come out of that. Great quote, paraphrasing again. If you have a why, cope with almost any how. So what's your why? What is your why for IHOP? What is your why for Centerplate? What is your why for Safeway? What is the why for any company or any nonprofit that you work? Hopefully it's to betterment. And if it's not that, then you need to reevaluate. So that's the first thing. What's my why? And then I can cope with how. I can cope with, activist investors. I can cope with disgruntled customers. I can cope with nefarious competition. If I have a why and my why is big enough, then I can cope with all the hows to get through it. And then the second quote from Frankl, really what I think about is, and it's humbling, but we've all got to get this. My worst day, and I've had some traumatic experiences in my life, like most people, but my worst day of all I've suffered and endured, somebody's best day. That's somebody else's best day, my worst day. That gets you focused on reality. It puts things into context and it allows you to work with some humility and also not with a loser's victim mentality. I always think, and I think it's very important as we're looking at these businesses, as we're looking at these challenges, as we're looking at how do we inspire or how do we motivate or how do we overcome obstacles? We are not a victim of our circumstances. We're a
Well, and this
product.
is what I love about it's what I love about Frankel so much, about this idea that nobody made me feel angry, nobody makes you do anything, that there's that like canyon of choice between stimulus and response, and this honesty that we have so much. We might have big temptations to react in a certain way,
Yeah.
and whether we give in to that temptation or not was actually our choice. And just that, like, I remember, I haven't read that book as many times as you have, but I've listened to it probably at least 7 or 8 times, I would think. And I think about this idea of how rough his situation was, and he was still able to choose. So what's my excuse? And it just like such a perspective thing for me.
And that's what you can then use that principle. So I was going to say, it's like you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a product of your choices, of the decisions that you made. So you can choose to reflect negatively or feel crushed or humiliated or demotivated or just humbled by a circumstance. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to learn from that. I'm not going to make the mistake again. And I'm going to be a better person moving forward.
Okay, so I want to talk about this. So IHOP, it's sexy to have big TV commercials. It's cool. It helps you win awards as a CMO. These kind of things, right? So talk to me about an actual tactic. Like, what's something you did to win the rural community?
Well, first of all, you need to accept that what we were doing wasn't working, and that is, when you think about it, Jess. I look at these studies all the time, and it's what forces me to continue to never stop learning. In 1930, 500, the Fortune 500's shelf life was 75 years. If you're going to be in that, 75 years, got some longevity. Today, it's less than 13. You're around and relevant for less than 15 years on average. Just shows you that the pace of change. It's like bad guys coming at John Wick. They're like on the nanosecond. It's that you got to be on you got to be on cue. You got to be reactive. You got to be adaptable. You got to be you got to be able to pivot and not procrastinate. And we haven't poached that in over the last 50 years effectively. But going back to specifically then with IHOP, I knew that TV wasn't going to work. We weren't getting to the audience. So then it becomes, and it's what I did when I became a manager of Pizza Hut in Sheffield, Sheffield, Yorkshire. Local store marketing, grassroots. It's not as sexy. It's hard work. And I love the quote that Roger Federer has, who's my favorite tennis player of all time. My wife actually is Rafael Nadal, and I like Rafa as well. So no criticism there if you listen, Rafa, to this, which I hope you do, because you inspired a lot of people as well. But Roger said, he had a great phrase. He said, there's no getting around it. You got to put the hard work in. You've got to do the work. And local store marketing is doing the hard grassroots work. So instead of TV, we use radio. Instead of TV, we use radio. We used at the time, where, this is before social media really, and the net was, this is 2007, 2008, 2009, different world today. But we used the vehicles that were there. So it was It was, what was the best program to use? Or you can eat pancake on the radio, in the newspaper, in very limited, internet, you kind of do the social media ads. And then it was like word of mouth. And it was getting what I wanted from every one of and I've always wanted this in every single business I've ran. You are more respected when you are respected by your local community. Are you seen for a force for good? So at Centerplate, for example, I wanted every single one of our venues, these massive venues, to be integral with helping people in need in their communities. And so,
what's an example of that? Yeah,
we raised $100 million for not-for-profits, $25 million on average a year. So it's more than 100, but let's just keep it 100 million. And so we would look at, in our venues, for example, Juma Ventures, great organization. Anybody out there who wants to help the at-risk or the underserved, if you like, whatever acronym you want to use, to help them have a chance of the American dream. First of all, you need a home, you need security, you need food, you need safety. So Juma Ventures, when I met with Mark Spencer at the time, the CEO, he was struggling to get any traction in major sports venues to put his employees into work so they could get a, career. If you have a job, think about it, Jess. I grew up dirt poor. I was homeless when I was 15. I know what it's like to have no money, to not have any food. It's an awful, debilitating, soul-crushing experience. So I firsthand, I knew what these thousands of people, millions actually, are going through. So with Juma Venture, when I met with Mark, the CEO, I said, I want to, he said, Des, can you give me a venue that I can put, 50, 100 people to work in? And you might find this callous. I said, no, if that's all you're wanting, I can't engage. I want to make this go big. I want thousands of people. Because if we make a statement, it's going to have a knock-on effect for others to make a statement. So suddenly Juma Ventures is in New Orleans at the Saints, at the convention center. It's in Minnesota. It's in Seattle. It's in San Francisco. It's in Miami. It's going around thousands of people who are now able to work, get a skill set. It's like, hey, I can give you a fish or I can teach you to fish. You can feed yourself for life or I can feed you for one meal. I'm into feeding you for life, that you can feed yourself for life. So those services, Jess, raised millions and millions of dollars, got thousands of people in a career mode. And people demean sometimes the restaurant space. I love the restaurant and hospitality space. I wouldn't be here talking to you without it. Many of the roles, though, are starter roles. They're not meant to be, if you're a server, unless it's your passion to serve, and it might be that you want to keep working when you're older, or you might want to, put your kids through college, or you're putting yourself through college. But it's not meant to be, this is your job and it's going to give you a house of $1 million and it's going to give you, the American dream. It's a service job. It's a beginning job that's learning you the basics. But it's demeaned and it shouldn't be. It's a beautiful thing, and hardworking people are learning skills that are going to serve them well for the rest of their life. Learning to speak to people is a good thing. It's like I have conversations now. People don't even look you in the eye. They'll be still texting as they're talking to you, particularly teenagers. 9 hours a day on social media, Jess. When people say to me, how can you be on 7 boards? How can you write books? How can you do the Thinking Academy? What are you doing all this not-for-profit stuff? How do you find the time? I'm exhausted talking to you, Des. And I said, no, what I don't do? Don't spend 9 hours a day on social media. I have 9 hours. I have a full day of work that other people are just giving away. It used to be you spend 50% of your time with your family and friends in the year 2000. There's studies on this, Jess. Now it's 2% because they're spending 60% on social media activities. It's flipped. You've gone from talking to your brother, talking to your sister, your mom and dad and your friends, to being alone in a room clicking on a PDA. But going back to uh, specifically, what did we do? So Juma Ventures was one that I'm very proud of, Jess. Not just proud, I'm proud that we did good for others. And my view is do well, do good. The other one was the journey home. It was a cause at the time, the mayor of Baltimore, they had 5,000 kids. Think about this. And I was also a homeless kid. They had 5,000 kids in Baltimore who slept outside a secure shelter on a nightly basis. 5,000. It's like we're in the richest country in the world, and this is what we're doing. And you see the surge of homelessness over the last several years. There's a lot of reasons why. We're not going to get into that now, but the reality with Baltimore was we put the journey home, which was to eradicate child homelessness, give kids, a safe place to rest their heads. So personally, my wife and myself and my family, we donated hundreds of thousands of dollars over this period of time. We also invested millions of dollars, bringing in headliners like John Legend and Jewel and Jennifer Hudson, who would come in and make this a gala and get people to freely open their checkbooks so we could do good for those kids. And we could go on and on. Food banks. I love the military. Without the military, they sacrifice unbelievably. So my general counsel and president of International, and also a former Olympic US speed skater, Keith King. That's Keith King. King as in the king, because he really is the king. He is the best executive I've worked with. And he made sure that we protected those all of the military arms. We didn't do things with, at the time, Space Force because there wasn't one, but we're glad there is now. And what Elon and others are going to do in space is going to be phenomenal for us. But it was giving back.
You mean you had programs for veterans, or you hired veterans, or you contributed to? What do you mean there?
We did. We made sure that we hired as many veterans as we could. We made sure that any sporting venue or concert, we brought in the military so they could be a guest. They could be honored for what they've done, because what they've done is more than I've ever done in my life to protect our freedoms. So we have an argument and we can have a debate about political matters because they're there protecting us and giving their life, limbs, and sometimes, sanity.
One of my favorite military guys we've had on here is from your homeland, a guy named Mark Reading, who is 22 SAS, and just high integrity. He was an early advisor for us at our charity Child Rescue that combats child trafficking. And I've stayed in touch with him for, I don't know, 15, 16 years. We were actually just texting like a week and some ago, and just like quiet confidence. And he's like an inspirational guy to me.
No, I love the SAS. Obviously, I love the SEAL team and everything else. I personally don't tell Mark this because I know nobody's listening, but I was too tough for the SAS, but we'll just leave it at
that. Well, listen, tell us one of your favorite things from the book.
My favorite couple of things. One is it's a belief and it's a mindset that I think will help everybody. And we got to get this into our head. And that is, you do whatever it takes. So within moral, legal boundaries, it means that there's no task too big, no task too small. Examples of that are endless, and I will list them out in the book. But for me, this is before the era of, before the era of COVID, and COVID changed the world, and like how many podcasts have been developed and doing things now that, maybe 5 years ago we'd say, it's a little bit offensive to have a virtual meeting. Now it's like I embrace them because I can do 50 things more. I can 5 times what I used to do because I'm not on a plane. But in the day of doing whatever it takes pre-COVID, I know that I took a plane from Dallas to Tokyo for a 1 hour meeting, slept overnight, and came back on the first available flight. I know I've done that in Alaska. I know when I was at Centerplate, I was based in Connecticut, and most weeks I would fly to San Francisco or LA, have a meeting, fly back the same day. It and yes, it takes 10 hours of my time, but I'll do whatever it takes. Um, when I was, uh, for example, I married an American, came to America. Before that, I was told because I left school at 15, which is a fair statement, didn't have any formal education. My wife said, "You need to get an MBA," and that was a dilemma in itself, Jess, because every time I applied for an MBA, they said, "Well, you got no. Where's your degree? Where's your qualifications?" And so you got rejection slip after rejection slip after rejection slip. So I remember this day quite well. I'm on the M25. It's the circular road around London, which is really a parking lot for most of the day. You're stuck in traffic all day. My wife is going to Germany for a meeting. She's in on the plane, and it's when plane services were at a different level. Let's just put it that way. And I called my wife and I said, "I just got another rejection letter, Carol, from the American school in American college in London." And she said, "Des, stop whining, do something about it." And so my first thought was to throw the phone outside the car. And then I was so mad, I drove straight, and you wouldn't do this now, but I drove straight down to Marylebone Road, centre of London, stormed into the college and demanded to see the headmaster, who's called the dean. I'd get arrested 50 times now, but I stormed into his room. Assistant was trying to stop me. I said, "I want a conversation." I was actually running almost $1 billion business, and I was in my mid-20s at the time. So I'm running a multi-billion, multi-hundreds of $1 million pound of business. And I'm saying, "Well, why aren't you letting me come into this program? I'm at a senior level and I'm in my mid-20s. I've surely got something." He said, "Well, Des, um, it's not for everybody. This is a very, rigorous program, and we only want the best." And I said, "Well, we can argue all day, but why don't you just give me an aptitude test?" And I blew it away. 2 years later, get my MBA. I magna cum laude, the highest MBA recipient in the college system, and was featured as the star player. That's what having whatever it takes means: having a belief. Believe in yourself, do whatever it takes to succeed. Again, within, the legal boundaries. We don't want to go all nuts. We don't want to be, doing things that aren't right. But that to me is a massive lesson. The other one I talked about a little bit is never stop learning. The ability to look and learn every day should give every day meaning. I don't have monotonous days. I've already learned several things already today, and I'll learn several more after this call, and I'll learn several more tomorrow. It's a continuous improvement. But there's one exercise that I think is very important, and that is recognizing our own limitations are usually self-governed. And what I mean by that, and this is why, again, I wrote the book, because I wanted people to think for themselves. They won't agree with everything I say. That's the point. Don't agree with everything I say. Think for yourself. So there's this, and Frankie Russo, a great Fortune 5,000 leader. I think he's done so much more than me. He's 8 times he's done this. He's a keynote speaker. He's a phenomenal guy. Anybody who wants him, Frankie Russo on LinkedIn. Great human being. He put me onto this study, again, about learning. Put me onto a study about genius. And there's a study that NASA did to make sure that they could identify the best candidates for their program. And in the 1970s, they took 1,600 kids, 1,600, and they assessed them for genius. At 2 years old, what percentage would you think, Jess, were at genius level at 2 years old of 1,600 kids? All right, 98%. Think about 98% were Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, anybody you want to think in history at that level. They had, we are wired to be geniuses. Now, let's go through their education process and the conformities. Oh, why ask questions? Like, I got frustrated with my kids. Just do what I say. Don't ask me why all the time. But we knock that why out of people. We beat it. Society, when I was 5, I wanted to be a soccer player. I wanted to be an astronaut. I thought that I was a talking lion. I'm sure for years I walked around like on all fours thinking I was a beast. By a teenager, that genius level is down to 30%. So gone from 98 to 30. By adult, 98, 30. And I'll get you the thread. It's in my book, actually, of the study. That number drops to 2%. 2. That's conformity. I don't know why I'm getting the celebration for 2% on my screen here. That stricken that from the record, Jess. That is not balloons going up, but 2%. And what's driven that is conformity. It's in the box thinking. It's being safe. If I don't go on the extremes of anything, I'm safe. It's why I think most businesses fail. You play it safe. It's been hot wired into them. So what I love about thinking your way to the top is, okay, how are you going to recapture your genius? What are you going to do? How do you think differently? You don't need to. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I have issues with pronunciations of many words because of my, dyslexia. And my brain works too fast. But we have to accept our own limitations and then think about how do we develop from that? How do we maximize our weaknesses? I think my dyslexia makes me more creative. I think it lets me see things differently. So embrace why you've got maybe perceived issues and turn it into a positive. We don't do that. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I have heard of this other famous, British dyslexic guy that did pretty well. I don't know if you've heard of Richard Branson before, but apparently you can still be successful in life.
No, he inspired me. I can tell you in my book, he's in the book as, I think the other thing is we all need a life plan. And we all need confidence. And I call it the code red of your life, my life should be, what are we doing with our careers? Our careers fuel everything that we're going to do in life. It's going to give us sustainability. It's going to give you financial freedom. It's going to get you, a great family, great, place to live, all those things. And, it's a really funny year, 1976. Was the year, 1984, 76 was a bad year. My mother died, but 84 was a massive year for me on personal growth development. Branson's one of them. He came out with his famous pirate commercial. So British are known to be stiff upper lip, pretty serious guys. Here we got a guy who's got a parrot on his shoulder with a pirate patch going up against the most successful airline in the world at the time, in my humble opinion, British Airways. Virgin was created because of his belief in himself. That same year, Jobs did the Apple 1984 commercial. The few of us, the few geniuses who think differently. That to me is another learning in the book. It's having a plan for your life. Have you got it on a page and can you articulate it? What are you going to be doing for the next 5 years and what does success look like? sadly, I think more people think about what they're going to spend their holiday vacation on, or what are they going to eat at the weekend, or where are they going, versus what are you doing to really curate your career to maximize your life.
This is so inspirational. What do you want to leave people with today? And tell everybody where to get the book.
Well, the book you can get on Amazon, you can get hardback, you can get, you can get obviously, ebook on Kindle. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can go to deshagbooks.com and get it direct from me. I'll sign those books for you as well with a personal signature and inspiration quote if you like. You let me know what you want. You can get it from Amplify Publishing, is also my hybrid, who's a hybrid publisher. Nareen, again, another great guy, CEO of the company. Him and his team are phenomenal. That's where you can get the book. You go to thinkingacademy.co to enlist on any of the academic programs that we're putting in place to really help you, get the most out of maximize your career and life. We've got 17 Fort Sherpas who are going to be for you to learn from as well. So the former president of Global for Walt Disney Retail, the former CEO of The Limited, the former CEO of Safeway.com, and many others, Jennifer Hill, others, speakers, advocates, not-for-profit, just great all-round people that you can have the ability to learn from. Can you imagine having access to 17 proven leaders who are going to help you as your personal Sherpa to learn and evolve your career? I think it's going to be something that's for the ages. And I'm committed to it for the next 30 years, maybe 40 or 50 if I can work on my longevity enough. The message I always leave, it's kind of the sign behind me if you can see it. You move onwards. It doesn't matter what you face. I don't care how bad you think you are. I don't care how destroyed you think you feel. Have the belief that tomorrow's going to be better, and it usually absolutely will be. Time's a great healer, but mentally, getting the game of moving onwards. Sometimes that onwards means moving sideways, maybe stepping backwards. But if you're doing it in the mentality of a forward thinking mind, you can retreat or go sideways, you can pivot, but you're still moving onwards, even if you're literally moving backwards, because you've allowed yourself to think differently. So believe in yourself, have courage. The couple of life lessons for me and thoughts would be like the Phil Collins song, too many voices saying too many things. You got to learn to accept, ignore, and still move on. Don't let them amplify and don't allow anybody to live in your mind rent free. It's not a good place. Taylor Swift did a great song, Shake It Off. That's for all the successes and all the failures and all the adversity you have. Just shake it off. I love Sia, unstoppable, unbeatable. Be that. I love that song. That's my daily mantra. That's the song I ask everybody who reads the book to scream out with their toothbrush or their hairbrush every morning. You're unstoppable. Be unbeatable. Be that Porsche without brakes. Go. And then, like Michael Jackson, we are the world. Care about the world. Do something that leaves an indelible positive impression on the world. And then, to me, the final point, Jess, would be if I had a song, it wouldn't be Highway to Hell. That's not my song. Highway to Hell is not it. It's Lean on Me. Be somebody, be that rock for others. Have respect and do more than you think's possible, and you will do more than you ever thought was possible. But again, if I had one word and I sign off all my emails, all my correspondence, and have done for 20 plus years, onwards, go win.
I think that's a mic drop. This is great. Well, Everybody, go get a copy of Des's book. Des, thanks for making this happen and for joining us
Oh,
today.
and Jess, you are phenomenal. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I hope everybody uh, follows you on your podcast. You're a very worthy guy. And I should have started with that. Remissful. Thank you, and thank you for what you do.
Well, thanks again for doing this. Bye, everyone.
Bye.